The train wheezed to a stop at the edge of nowhere, black smoke curling into the endless Wyoming sky. Martha Collette pressed her face against the grimy window, watching the desolate platform of Dry Hollow emerge from the dust. 28 years old, widowed for 3. She carried everything she owned in a single worn valise and a knife hidden in her boot, a precaution her late husband had insisted upon before consumption took him. The letter in her pocket, creased from countless readings, bore the practical words of James Hunter, "I need a woman to manage the homestead, not seeking love or companionship. Only trust and hard work, room, board, and fair treatment guaranteed." Her brother Samuel had spoken of Hunter during his fevered recovery from war wounds, how the man had dragged him through enemy fire when others left him for dead. "If you ever need honest work," Samuel had whispered, "James Hunter pays his debts." Martha stepped onto the platform, her traveling dress already collecting dust. The station master, a grizzled man missing 2 fingers, barely glanced up. "Looking for someone, ma'am?" "Mr. James Hunter." His eyes widened slightly. "Hunter, he expecting you?" "He is." The man whistled low. "Wait here. He'll come when he's ready." 3 hours passed. Martha sat on her valise, watching tumbleweeds dance across the main street. Dry Hollow was barely a town, a general store, a saloon, a chapel with a crooked cross, and scattered buildings that seemed to lean against each other for support. Men on horseback tipped their hats as they passed, their eyes lingering with curiosity. A widow traveling alone to meet a bachelor rancher was fodder for gossip in any town, especially one this small. The sun was beginning its descent when she heard the wagon. James Hunter appeared like something carved from the landscape itself, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing clothes that had seen better decades, near 40, she guessed, with the dark hair touched by silver and a scar cutting across his jaw that made his rare expressions difficult to read. He didn't dismount. "A Mrs. Collette." Yes. He studied her for a long moment, taking in her practical dress, her straight posture, the determined set of her mouth. "You're smaller than I expected." "I'm stronger than I look." "Hope so. Ranch work doesn't care about appearances." He gestured to the wagon bed. "Climb up. It's a 4-hour ride." No offer to help with her valise, no pleasantries. Martha appreciated the honesty of it. She hauled herself and her belongings into the wagon, settling on the hard wooden bench. Hunter clicked his tongue, and the horses lurched forward. They rode in silence for the first hour, the town disappearing behind them like a mirage. The landscape opened into endless grassland, punctuated by rocky outcroppings and distant mountains. Martha had never seen such emptiness in Kansas. Even the prairies felt contained. Here, the sky seemed to press down with its vastness. "Your brother spoke of you," Hunter finally said, eyes fixed on the horizon. "What did he say?" "That you buried a husband and kept his farm running another year alone. That you can read, write, and figure numbers. That you don't scare easy." Samuel always did talk too much when fevered. A sound that might have been a laugh escaped Hunter. He also said, "You make the best cornbread west of the Mississippi." "That's a lie. I make adequate cornbread." "Adequate is more than I've had in 2 years." The sun was setting when they reached the homestead, a solid log cabin with a steep roof, a barn that had seen better days, and various outbuildings scattered like afterthoughts. No flowers, no feminine touches, just functional structures built to withstand Wyoming winters. A yellow dog, more scar than fur, limped out to investigate. "That's Moses," Hunter said, climbing down. "He's particular about strangers, but he won't bite unless you give him reason." Martha extended her hand. The dog sniffed, considered, then allowed a brief pat before retreating to the porch. Hunter watched this interaction with interest. It usually takes a week to warm up to hired hands. Perhaps he recognizes a fellow survivor. Hunter's expression shifted slightly, not quite a smile, but something less guarded. He grabbed her valise before she could protest and headed inside. "Come on, I'll show you the house. The interior was sparse but clean. A main room with a stone fireplace, a rough-hewn table, 2 chairs, a kitchen area with a wood stove and basic supplies. Down a narrow hallway, 2 bedrooms separated by more distance than seemed necessary in a house this size. "That's yours," Hunter indicated the farther room. "Has a lock on the inside. Use it if it makes you feel safer. I rise at dawn, earlier in calving season. Breakfast is at 5, supper at 6. Washing is done on Mondays, mending when needed. You'll help with the chickens, garden, and indoor work. I handle the cattle, horses, and heavy repairs." "What about wages?" "Room, board, and $10 monthly. More if it's a good year, less if it's not. Fair?" "Fair." Martha set down her things, testing the bed's firmness. "Mr. Hunter, I should be clear about something." He waited, leaning against the doorframe with the patience of a man accustomed to long silences. "I buried one husband. I'm not looking to marry another. If you're seeking that kind of arrangement, I'm not." His voice was flat, final. "I need someone to help run this place. Nothing more. We understand each other." "Perfectly." He nodded, started to leave, then paused. "Mrs. Colette, one more thing. This land doesn't forgive mistakes. Follow my rules. Ask when you don't know something, and don't wander off alone. Wolves, weather, and worse can kill you out here. I have no interest in burying anyone on my property." "Understood." That first night, Martha lay awake listening to the unfamiliar sounds, wind howling through gaps in the logs, coyotes calling in the distance, the house settling with groans and sighs. From somewhere down the hall came Hunter's cough, deep and persistent, the kind that spoke of old injuries never properly healed. She recognized the sound from her husband's final months, though this was different, not consumption, but something violent that had scarred from the inside. She rose before dawn, finding her way to the kitchen by lamplight. The stove was temperamental, but she coaxed it to life, mixing biscuits from the meager supplies while coffee boiled. Hunter appeared exactly at 5, stopping short when he saw the set table. "I didn't expect—" "You said breakfast at 5. Martha placed a plate before him. "I assume that means having it ready, not starting it." He ate in silence, but she caught him glancing at her between bites. When he finished, he stood, grabbed his hat, and headed for the door. At the threshold, he turned back. The biscuits were better than adequate. Alone again. Martha explored her new domain. The kitchen was workable but needed organization. The garden plot behind the house had gone to seed. The chicken coop held 6 scraggly hens who eyed her with suspicion. She rolled up her sleeves and began. By the time Hunter returned at dusk, she had scrubbed the kitchen, collected 4 eggs, and started a pot of stew from the salt pork and dried beans she'd found. He washed at the pump outside, a ritual she would come to recognize, before entering. The table was set for 2, lamp lit against the growing darkness. "You've been busy." "I don't care for idleness." They ate without conversation, but the silence felt less hostile than the night before. When Martha rose to clear the dishes, Hunter spoke. "There's a ledger in the drawer. Previous woman kept track of supplies, expenses. Might help you understand what's needed." "Previous woman. Hired help, left last winter, said the isolation was too much." Martha found the ledger, scanning the careful entries that stopped abruptly in December. "How long were you alone?" 4 months. She looked up, seeing him differently. 4 months of winter solitude in this emptiness. No wonder he seemed carved from stone. "I don't mind isolation," she said. "We'll see." The first week tested them both. Hunter was a man of routines carved deep as wagon ruts, and Martha learned them through observation rather than instruction. He rose before dawn, checked the horses, tended the cattle, and returned precisely at mealtimes. He spoke only when necessary, ate methodically, and retired to his room each night with the same measured steps. Martha matched his silence with her own efficiency. She discovered that Hunter's previous help had left not just in December, but in disgust. The pantry was chaos. The root cellar nearly empty, and mouse droppings decorated every corner. She attacked each problem systematically, scrubbing, organizing, and making lists of needed supplies. On the 7th morning, Hunter found her splitting kindling behind the house, sweat darkening her dress despite the cool air. "That's my work," he said. "Your work is running cattle. Mine is running the house. The house needs kindling." She didn't pause in her swinging. "You'll blister your hands." "Already did, 3 days ago." She showed him her wrapped palms. "They're healing." He watched her split 2 more logs, noting her technique was rough but effective. "Who taught you?" "Necessity." "Same teacher as mine." He took the axe from her, not ungently. "But use the maul for splitting. Save the axe for chopping. And wrap those hands better. Infection out here can kill you quick as a rattler." That afternoon, he left clean bandages and a tin of salve by her door. The second week brought the first real test. Hunter returned from checking the far pastures with news that wolves had taken a calf. He'd be gone 2 nights tracking them, maybe 3. "Bar the doors at nightfall," he instructed, loading his rifle. "Moses will alert you to trouble. There's a shotgun in the kitchen, you know how to use it. Point and pull the trigger." "Close enough. Don't waste shells on shadows. Don't go outside after dark for any reason. There's enough wood split. Water drawn. Just stay put." Martha nodded, hiding her apprehension. She'd been alone before, but not in this vast emptiness where the nearest neighbor was a day's ride away. The first night passed peacefully. Martha kept busy with mending and baking. Moses curled by the stove. But the second night brought wind that howled like living things, rattling windows and finding every gap in the logs. Near midnight, Moses growled, hackles rising. Something scraped along the outside wall. Martha gripped the shotgun, heart hammering. Moses barked sharply, then fell silent. Listening, the scraping came again, deliberate and slow. Not wind, not imagination. "Who's there?" her voice cracked. Silence, then a low laugh that definitely wasn't Hunter. Well, well, Hunter's got himself a woman. Open up, lady. Just want to water my horse." Martha recognized the type drifter. Probably drunk. Certainly trouble. "Mister, Hunter will be back shortly." "Sure he will." The door handle rattled. "Come on now. Be neighborly." Moses snarled, and Martha heard the man step back. She cocked the shotgun, the sound carrying clearly through the door. "I said he'll be back shortly. Move along." More laughter, but nervous now. "No need for that. Just passing through." She waited, muscles tense, until hoofbeats faded into distance. Moses remained alert another hour before finally settling. Martha didn't lower the gun until dawn painted the sky pink. Hunter returned that afternoon, 3 wolf pelts tied to his saddle. He took one look at her hollow eyes and Moses's protective hovering and knew. "What happened?" She told him briefly, matter-of-factly. His face darkened with each word. "Describe him." "Didn't see him. Medium height from the voice. Smelled like whiskey and old sweat." "I'll ask in town." He unpacked his gear with sharp movements. "You did right. Showing fear would have made it worse." "I wasn't afraid. I was angry." The truth surprised her. How dare he come here, to this place, and try to... She stopped, swallowing hard. "This is your place too, long as you're here." Hunter met her eyes directly for the first time since her arrival. "Anyone bothers you again, you use that shotgun. Questions can wait for afterwards." That night, he showed her how to properly load and clean the weapon, how to brace for the kick, where to aim. His hands were careful, patient, never touching hers but guiding through demonstration. "My wife knew how to shoot," he said suddenly, the words seeming to surprise him. "Could drop a rabbit at 50 yards. Martha waited, but he offered nothing more. She'd wondered about the feminine touches the house lacked, the reason a man his age lived alone. Now she had a partial answer. "When?" she asked quietly. 8 years come spring. Fever took her and our boy, 3 days old. He set the gun down carefully. "Haven't spoken of it since the burying." "I'm sorry." Long time passed, but his voice carried the weight of it still. "That's why I wrote what I did, not looking for another wife, just someone to help keep this place running." "I understand." He stood abruptly. "I'll be building a bell tower tomorrow. You need help. You ring it. I'll hear it from most of the property." She recognized the gesture for what it was, not just protection, but acknowledgement that she'd earned her place here. "Thank you." The third week brought rain that turned the yard to mud and leaked through the roof in 3 places. Martha positioned buckets and pans, the pinging rhythm accompanying their meals. Hunter ate grimly, calculating materials needed for repairs. "I'll start fixing it when the weather clears." He said, "I could help. I've patched roofs before." "It's dangerous work. So is cooking on that temperamental stove, but I manage." He almost smiled. She was learning to recognize the slight softening around his eyes. "Fair point, but you follow my lead exactly. One slip means a broken neck." They worked together when the sun returned, Martha hauling shingles while Hunter hammered. She proved steady on the steep pitch, anticipating what he needed before he asked. By evening, the leaks were fixed, and they sat on the porch, exhausted but satisfied. "You weren't lying about keeping that farm running," Hunter observed. "Most women would have balked at roof work. Most women haven't buried a husband at 25 and faced losing everything to creditors." The words came bitter. "You learn to do what needs doing or you starve." "That why you came here, creditors?" "Among other reasons." She didn't elaborate, and he didn't push. As autumn deepened, they developed a rhythm. Martha expanded the garden plot, coaxing vegetables from the reluctant soil. She negotiated with the chickens, gradually increasing egg production through better feed and strategic coop improvements. Hunter taught her to recognize weather changes, which horses were reliable, how to spot sick cattle from healthy. He never smiled, rarely laughed, but his approval came in small gestures, an extra log split for her stove, a handful of late wildflowers left by her plate, the good cuts of meat saved for her meals while he took the tough ones. She responded in kind, his favorite coffee strong and ready before dawn, his work shirts mended with tiny, careful stitches, the beard salve she made from beeswax and herbs that eased his wind-chapped skin. One evening, a month into her stay, Hunter returned from town with supplies and mail. He handed her a letter, watching her face pale as she recognized the handwriting. "Trouble." She opened it with steady hands, though he noticed they trembled after reading. "My former brother-in-law wants to know my whereabouts, says there are matters to settle from my husband's estate." "Are there?" "Only in his imagination." She folded the letter carefully. "He believes I have money hidden. I don't." Hunter was quiet for a long moment. "He know you're here?" "Not yet, but he's persistent." "Then we'll deal with it when it comes." Simple as that. No questions about the debt. No doubts about her honesty. Just calm acceptance and implied protection. That night, Martha left an extra biscuit on his plate and the good honey she'd been saving. He ate slowly, savoring each bite, and she pretended not to notice when he closed his eyes briefly in appreciation. "Thank you," he said, "for the meal, for your work here, for—" He stopped, unused to expressing gratitude. "For not being the sort of woman who runs from wolves or leaking roofs." "That too." He stood, paused at his bedroom door. "You've made this place easier. I'd forgotten it could be." Alone in her room, Martha touched the letter in her pocket and thought about debts owed and debts imagined, about the distance between Kansas and Wyoming, about a man who offered protection without demanding payment for it. She'd come here running from one life and stumbled into another harder in some ways. but cleaner somehow. Outside, a wolf howled in the distance. Moses growled from his post by the door, and down the hall. She heard Hunter's steady footsteps as he checked the locks, the windows, the boundaries of their shared solitude. "I'm not looking for a wife," he'd said that first day. "Just someone to survive the winter." 3 winters, she'd told him. 3 winters survived alone. But this winter, she thought, neither of them would have to. October brought the first frost, silver white on the grass when Martha stepped out to gather eggs. The chickens huddled together, feathers fluffed against the cold. She'd need to insulate the coop soon, add more straw, maybe convince Hunter to help her patch the gaps where wind whistled through. Inside, she found him already at the table, studying his ledgers by lamplight. This was new usually. He was out with the cattle by now. "Coffee's not ready yet," she apologized, hurrying to the stove. "No rush, waiting for better light anyway." He didn't look up from his figures. "Trying to calculate if we have enough hay for winter. It'll be close. His pencil paused. "The ranch. If the ranch has enough?" But he'd said, "we," and they both heard it. Martha poured coffee in silence, noting how he wrapped his hands around the cup for warmth. His cough had worsened with the cold, though he'd never acknowledge it. "I could check Miller's place," she offered. "Sarah Miller sometimes has extra hay to sell." "You know the Millers." "Met Sarah at the general store last week. She seemed friendly enough." Hunter's expression tightened. "Best keep interactions with neighbors minimal. People talk." "About what that you hired help for your ranch?" Martha set bread on the table with more force than necessary. "There's nothing improper about our arrangement." "Tell that to a town full of gossips who've got nothing better to do than speculate." He pushed back from the table. "I'll check on the hay myself." He was gone before she could respond, leaving his breakfast half-eaten. Martha cleared the dishes, frustrated by his sudden coldness. They'd found a comfortable rhythm over the past weeks. Why disturb it with worry about what others thought? The answer came that afternoon when she ventured to the well. A woman stood by the gate, dressed in the bright calicos favored by town ladies, holding a covered basket. "You must be Mrs. Colette," the woman called out, her smile not reaching her eyes. "I'm Prudence Hartley, wife of the bank president." Martha approached cautiously. "Mrs. Hartley, how can I help you?" "Oh, I thought I'd be neighborly. Bring a welcome gift." She thrust the basket forward. "Apple preserves. My own recipe." "That's kind of you." "Well, we look after each other out here." Prudence's gaze swept over Martha's work dress, the mud on her boots, the wisps of hair escaping her practical bun. "Especially women in difficult circumstances." "My circumstances are fine. Thank you." "Of course, though it must be challenging. Keeping house for Mr. Hunter, such a particular man. We all wondered when he'd finally hire help after that unfortunate incident with the last girl." Martha kept her expression neutral. "Unfortunate incident. Oh, you didn't know she left quite suddenly, middle of the night, they say. Made all sorts of wild claims about, well..." Prudence leaned closer, voice dropping. "I shouldn't gossip, but a woman alone should be warned. They say she accused Mr. Hunter of improper advances." "They say a lot of things." Martha's voice came out sharper than intended. "Indeed they do. Why, just yesterday at the quilting bee, someone mentioned seeing you and Mr. Hunter working quite closely on the roof, and him giving you rides to town. Just the 2 of you in that wagon." She trailed off suggestively. "Because I work here, it's a ranch. Mrs. Hartley, not a tea parlor." Prudence's smile turned brittle. "No need to be defensive. Dear, I'm only trying to help. A woman's reputation is all she has, especially a widow. I'd hate to see you become another casualty of Mr. Hunter's isolation." Martha stepped back. "Thank you for the preserves. I have work to finish." "Of course. Do think about joining us for church Sunday. It would help clarify things. After Prudence left, Martha stood gripping the basket, anger and unease warring in her chest. She understood now why Hunter kept his distance from town, why he tensed at mention of the neighbors. One whisper of impropriety could destroy what they'd built here. That evening, she placed the preserves on the table without comment. Hunter eyed the fancy jar, the ribbon tied around its neck. Prudence Hartley visited, Martha said. Ah, a world of understanding in that single syllable. What poison did she spread? Concern for my reputation, warnings about your improper advances on the previous help. Hunter's laugh was bitter. Emma Crane was 16 and silly. Got ideas about being mistress of a ranch. Started making up stories when I sent her back to her parents. Prudence knows the truth but prefers the fiction. Why? He pushed the preserves aside. Because I refused her sister's hand 10 years ago. Because I don't attend their church. Because a man alone must be hiding something. He met her eyes. I should have warned you. This arrangement, it invites speculation. Let them speculate. Easy to say until they refuse to sell you supplies. Until they cross the street to avoid you. Until... He stopped, jaw tight. Martha understood then. This wasn't just about gossip. Until they make it impossible for me to stay. I won't have another woman driven off by their tongues. I'm not Emma Crane. I'm not 16, and I'm not silly. She straightened. I knew what people would say when I answered your advertisement. A widow traveling alone to work for a bachelor. I've already fallen from respectability. Mr. Hunter, I've got nothing left to lose. You have your dignity. Dignity doesn't fill an empty stomach or pay off creditors. The words came fierce. I've been snubbed before. It didn't kill me. They ate in heavy silence. Finally, Hunter spoke. There are ways to make it easier. We could establish clearer boundaries. You could take meals in your room. I could arrange for you to stay in town Saturday nights. Maintain distance. No. He blinked at her vehemence. I won't be driven into hiding by Prudence Hartley and her quilting bee gossips. Martha stood, began clearing dishes with sharp movements. We've done nothing wrong. Our arrangement is business, nothing more. If that's too scandalous for them, they're welcome to come do the work themselves. Martha, he caught himself. It was the first time he'd used her given name. Mrs. Colette, you don't understand how vicious they can be. Don't I? She whirled on him. You think you're the only one who's been torn apart by righteous tongues. They said I drove my husband to debt with my demands. Said I probably hastened his death with my nagging. Said I sold more than the farm to keep myself fed. Her voice cracked. I know exactly how vicious they can be. Hunter stood slowly, in the lamplight. She could see the anger in his eyes, not at her, but at those who'd hurt her. Is that why you left Kansas? Among other reasons, she turned back to the dishes. The point is, I survived their viciousness. I'll survive it here, too. You shouldn't have to. The gentleness in his voice nearly undid her. No, I shouldn't, but the world isn't interested in what should be. They worked together clearing the table, movements careful around this new rawness between them. At his bedroom door, Hunter paused. For what it's worth, I know you're nothing like Emma Crane. These past weeks, you've proven yourself 10 times over. He struggled for words. I hired you for help, not to make your life harder. My life was already hard. At least here, the work has purpose. She managed a small smile. And the company is markedly better than Kansas creditors. That's a low bar to clear. Yet you clear it admirably. Something shifted in his expression, surprise. Perhaps that she could find anything admirable about him. He nodded good night and disappeared into his room. Martha lay awake thinking about boundaries and gossip, about the careful distance they maintained and how it both protected and isolated them. Down the hall, Hunter's cough echoed through the walls. Without overthinking it, she rose and prepared the honey whiskey mixture her mother had sworn by. She left it outside his door with a quiet knock. For the cough, she called softly. Silence. Then, thank you. She returned to bed, pulling the quilt high against the cold. Let Prudence Hartley talk. Let the whole town whisper. They'd already decided who she was, the desperate widow, the fallen woman, the fool who'd trust James Hunter. None of them knew the truth that in this house of careful distances and unspoken understanding, she'd found something she hadn't known she was looking for. Not love, neither of them wanted that, but respect, purpose, a place where her worth wasn't measured by social graces or reputation, but by eggs gathered and meals cooked and roofs mended. In the morning, she found the empty glass outside Hunter's door and a note. Cough's better, thank you. At breakfast, he told her he'd ordered extra supplies from the general store, including proper winter clothes. Can't have you freezing while the gossips watch. That's not necessary. It's practical. Hard to work with frostbitten fingers. But his tone was gentle. We'll go to town together Saturday. Let them see we've nothing to hide. They'll talk more. Let them. I'm tired of organizing my life around their opinions. He paused. Unless you'd prefer. I prefer to get supplies without skulking around like criminals. Martha poured his coffee. And I need chicken feed anyway. Then it settled. It was such a small thing, this decision to face town together. But as Martha watched Hunter head out to the cattle, she recognized it for what it was, a declaration of sorts, not of anything romantic or improper, despite what the gossips would say, but of partnership, of two people choosing to stand together against whatever came, be it Wyoming winter or wagging tongues. Prudence Hartley and her preserves still sat on the counter. Martha fed them to the chickens, taking satisfaction in their enthusiastic pecking. Then she set about her day's work, humming under her breath another thing that would surely scandalize the quilting bee. Let them talk. She had floors to scrub and bread to bake and a ranch to help run. Real work for real purpose, in the company of a man who valued her labor over her reputation. It was more than she'd had in Kansas. More, perhaps, than she'd dared hope for when she'd stepped off that train. The wind picked up as afternoon wore on, rattling windows and sending dust devils dancing across the yard. Martha secured the coop, brought in the laundry, battened down anything that might blow away. Prairie life had taught her to read whether this would be a bad one. Hunter returned early, his face grim. Storm coming fast. Help me get the horses in. They worked together without need for words. Martha leading the gentler mares while Hunter handled the stallion. The wind grew fiercer, pelting them with dirt and debris. By the time they'd secured the last animal, the sky had turned an ominous green-black. Inside, Hunter ordered. Now! They made it to the porch as the first hail began chunks of ice the size of marbles, then eggs, hammering the roof with violence. Martha had seen prairie storms, but this was something else entirely. Will the windows hold? She asked. Maybe. Stay away from them. Hunter was already checking supplies oil for lamps, water buckets filled, food that didn't need cooking. Could be a long night. The storm hit with full force as darkness fell, wind screaming like a living thing. The house shuddered but held, built by someone who understood Wyoming's fury. They sat by the fire, playing cards by lamplight, pretending not to flinch when something crashed outside. Your first real Wyoming storm, Hunter observed. Still glad you stayed. Ask me when it's over. Lightning illuminated his almost smile. Fair enough. The wind died near midnight, leaving an eerie silence. Hunter ventured out first, returning with a grim report. Lost some roof shingles, chicken coops damaged but standing. Could have been worse. They'd repair it tomorrow, together, like they did everything now together but apart. Partners but not, building something that had no name but worked nonetheless. Thank you, Hunter said suddenly, for the help with the horses, for not panicking. I told you, I don't scare easy. No, he agreed. You don't. They sat a moment longer, comfortable in the quiet. Then Martha rose, gathering the cards. Breakfast at 5. Breakfast at 5. Normal words, normal routine. But underneath lay something else, trust. Perhaps the knowledge that come morning, they'd both be here, ready to face whatever the day brought. It was enough, more than enough. It was beginning to feel like home. November arrived with teeth, bringing snow that fell steady and relentless. Martha woke to a world transformed white, the familiar landmarks of the ranch buried beneath pristine drifts. From her window, she watched Hunter breaking a path to the barn, his breath clouding in the frigid air. She dressed quickly in the layers he'd insisted on buying: wool undergarments, thick stockings, the heavy work dress that had scandalized Mrs. Hartley at the general store. "My dear, you look like a field hand," the woman had gasped. "Exactly," Martha had replied, enjoying the shock on her face. The kitchen was ice cold. She built up the fire, set coffee brewing, mixed biscuit dough with fingers already stiffening from cold. Hunter appeared as she pulled the first batch from the oven, snow dusting his shoulders. "Cattle are restless," he reported, warming his hands by the stove. "This storm's just starting." They'd prepared as best they could, haystacked high, wood split and stacked, root cellar stocked. But Wyoming winters, Martha was learning, laughed at human preparation. How long might it last? Days, maybe a week. He accepted the coffee gratefully. "Hope you don't mind being snowbound with just me and Moses for company." "I've had worse company." Another low bar, but there was warmth in his voice. By afternoon, the snow had turned horizontal, driven by winds that found every gap in the walls. They stuffed rags in the worst spots, hung blankets over windows, moved Martha's bed away from the outside wall where frost was forming. "You can't sleep in there," Hunter said flatly. "Too cold." "I'll manage." "No." His tone brooked no argument. "Take my room. It's closer to the chimney. Stays warmer. I'll bunk out here by the fire." "That's not—" "It's practical. Can't have you freezing to death. Who'd make the biscuits?" She recognized the deflection for what it was: his way of making the offer about necessity rather than concern. "Fine, but we switch off. Your cough won't improve sleeping on the floor." He started to protest, saw her expression, and nodded. "Fair enough." The second day brought worse weather and a new problem. Hunter returned from feeding the horses with the news that made Martha's heart sink. Barn roof struggling under the snow weight. Need to clear it before it collapses. In this storm. No choice. He was already gathering a rope, checking knots. "I'll tie myself off. Work in sections." "We'll tie ourselves off." Martha reached for her coat. "You can't manage alone." "Absolutely not. It's too dangerous." "More dangerous than you falling and me finding your frozen body come spring." She faced him squarely. "I told you, I've worked roofs before." "Not in a blizzard." "James!" His first name slipped out, stopping him cold. "Please, let me help." He stared at her for a long moment. "You follow every order exactly. First sign of trouble, you get inside." The work was brutal. Wind tried to tear them from the roof with every gust. Snow blinded them. Ice made every step treacherous. Martha's hands went numb despite the thick gloves. Her face burned from the cold. But she matched Hunter shovelful for shovelful, reading his gestures when words were impossible over the storm's howl. They'd cleared half when her foot slipped. One moment she was upright, the next sliding toward the edge. The rope caught, jerked her to a stop, but momentum swung her out over empty air. She heard Hunter shout, felt the roof shake as he moved toward her. "Don't!" she yelled. "You'll fall too." But he was already there, hauling her up with strength born of desperation. They tumbled back onto solid roof, his arms locked around her, both breathing hard. "Are you hurt?" His voice was rough with fear. "No, just winded." He didn't let go. For a moment, they stayed like that, snow swirling around them, hearts hammering against each other. Then reality returned. He helped her to the ladder, down to safety. into the house where Moses whined anxious greeting. "Sit," Hunter commanded, pushing her toward the fire. "Don't move." He returned with blankets, whiskey, hands that shook slightly as he poured. "Drink." The whiskey burned, but warmth followed. "The roof." "Can wait." He sat heavily beside her, taking his own long pull from the bottle. "I shouldn't have let you. You couldn't have stopped me." "I should have tried harder." Martha looked at him, really looked. His face was raw with cold and something else. Fear, she realized. Not for the barn or the cattle, but for her. "I'm fine," she said softly. "Thanks to you." "You almost weren't. You almost—" He stopped, jaw working. "But I didn't, because you were there." She touched his hand carefully. "Partners. Remember?" He stared at their hands, hers small and work-roughened, his larger, scarred from years of labor. Slowly, carefully, he turned his palm up, let their fingers interlace. Just for a moment. Just until the shaking stopped. "No more roof work in storms," he said finally. "Agreed." They sat watching the fire, the moment too fragile for words. Finally, Hunter rose. "I'll heat soup. You change into dry clothes before you catch your death." Normal activities. Normal distance restored. But something had shifted on that roof, in that moment of almost loss. They were more careful with each other now, and somehow less careful too. The storm raged 3 more days. They developed new rhythms reading by firelight, Hunter teaching her to mend harnesses while she showed him how to darn socks properly. Moses sprawled between them, content with the unusual indoor companionship. "How did you meet your wife?" Martha asked one evening, surprising herself with the question. Hunter's hand stilled on the leather he was working. "Church social. Her father was the minister." A ghost of a smile. "She was serving lemonade. Prettiest thing in yellow calico. Took me 6 months to work up courage to speak to her." "What was her name?" "Elizabeth. Beth." The name came soft, reverent. "She was everything I wasn't: gentle, patient, full of laughter. No idea why she chose me. Maybe she saw who you really were. Not just the quiet rancher, but the man who'd risk everything to save a friend." He looked up sharply. "Samuel told you about the war?" "Some, enough to know you're the reason he came home." "I did what anyone would." "No," Martha said firmly. "You didn't." Silence stretched between them, but comfortable now. Finally, Hunter spoke again. "What about your husband? How did you meet?" "At a harvest dance. Thomas was charming, full of grand plans and bigger dreams." She smiled sadly. "I was 17 and foolish enough to think dreams paid bills." "You loved him." "I did, even when the dreams turned to schemes, the schemes to debts, even when—" She stopped. "You don't have to—" "He wasn't a bad man, just weak, too fond of cards and whiskey and easy promises." The words came in a rush. "When he got sick, I think he was almost relieved. No more running from creditors. No more disappointing me." "You didn't disappoint him." She looked up, surprised by the certainty in his voice. "A man who had you and couldn't see the treasure he held that's on him. Not you." Heat bloomed in her cheeks. "James, I mean it. These months, watching you work, seeing how you handle whatever comes. Thomas was a fool if he didn't recognize your worth." The compliment hung between them. Too raw, too real. Martha fled to safe ground. "Speaking of worth, we're nearly out of coffee." He accepted the deflection. "Storm should break tomorrow. I'll dig out to the storeroom." But that night, when she took her turn in his room, they'd kept their agreement to alternate. She found an extra quilt on the bed and the good pillow from his own bedding. Small gestures. Careful kindness. The only way he seemed to know how to show care without breaking the boundaries they'd set. The storm ended as suddenly as it began. Martha woke to silence and brilliant sunshine reflecting off snow. She found Hunter already outside, surveying damage. "Lost some chickens," he reported. "Fences down in the east pasture, but the barn held, thanks to their work on the roof." Martha touched her ribs where bruises were blooming, a small price for keeping the cattle sheltered. They spent the day digging out, working in companionable rhythm. The crisis had passed, but its intimacy lingered. They were easier with each other now, quicker to share small smiles, brief touches. Still careful, still maintaining proper distance, but the distance had shortened. That evening, as Martha prepared supper, Hunter appeared with something behind his back. "Found this in the storeroom." He produced a small pot with a withered plant. Beth's Christmas cactus. Thought it was dead, but looked new growth. Indeed, tiny green shoots emerged from seemingly lifeless stems. Martha took it carefully, touched by the gesture and what it meant this piece of his past life offered to her care. "I'll nurse it back," she promised. "I know you will." He cleared his throat. "Martha, these past days." "I know." She set the plant on the windowsill where it would catch morning light. "Me too." Neither tried to name what they knew. It was too soon, too fragile, too complicated by their arrangement and the boundaries they'd necessarily drawn. But it was there, growing like the tiny shoots on the cactus' unexpected life in what had seemed barren ground. That night, lying in her own bed again, Martha listened to the familiar sound of Hunter's footsteps, his evening cough, the settling of the house around them. The storm had passed, but its gifts remained partnership-tested and proven, walls lowered just enough to let warmth in. The knowledge that when she'd fallen, he'd been there to catch her. Not love, she told herself firmly. Neither of them wanted that. But something good and solid and worth protecting, like the small green shoots of a plant everyone thought was dead. She smiled in the darkness, pulled the quilt higher, and slept better than she had in years. Down the hall, she didn't know that Hunter lay awake thinking similar thoughts, remembering the weight of her in his arms on the roof, the way her hand had felt in his. Not love. They'd both been clear about that. But something that made the empty house feel less empty, the long winter more bearable, the future less solitary. Something worth keeping safe from storms, both weather and human. Something that didn't need a name to be real. December brought a deceptive calm after November's fury. The snow settled into manageable drifts. The wind gentled, and the ranch found its winter rhythm. Martha's Christmas cactus showed more green shoots daily, a small miracle on the kitchen windowsill that made Hunter pause each morning, coffee cup in hand. "Never thought that thing would come back," he said one dawn, touching a tiny leaf with surprising gentleness. "Sometimes things just need proper tending," Martha replied, not looking up from the bacon she was frying. "That they do." The weight in his voice made her glance over. He was watching her, not the plant, with an expression she couldn't quite read. Then Moses barked at something outside, and the moment passed. They'd fallen into new patterns since the storm. Hunter still maintained careful distance, but now he lingered over morning coffee, helped with dishes without being asked, spent evenings teaching her to read the subtle signs of coming weather in cloud formations and wind patterns. "See how the clouds are stacking there?" He pointed through the window one evening. "Means snow by morning, but not heavy." "How can you tell?" "Experience. 20 years of watching Wyoming skies." He paused. "Beth used to say I paid more attention to clouds than people." Was she right? Probably. Clouds are easier to read. He gave her a sideways glance. Most people. Anyway. Martha felt heat rise in her cheeks. "Am I so difficult to read?" "Sometimes." He turned from the window. "Like when you're mixing bread. Can never tell if that frown means you're concentrating or angry at the dough." "Usually both. Your stove has moods." "Everything on this ranch has moods, including Moses." The dog thumped his tail at mention of his name. "Speaking of which, I'll be gone tomorrow, taking horses to Fort Laramie. 3 days, maybe 4. Martha's hands stilled on her mending. "In winter, Colonel Morrison needs remounts. Pays well, and we need the money." He hesitated. "You'll be all right alone after last time." "Last time was one drifter. I'll be fine. I'll leave the rifle loaded. Moses knows to stay close to the house when I'm gone, and Sarah Miller said she'd check on you." "You spoke to Sarah Miller? I thought we were avoiding neighbors." "We are." He shifted uncomfortably. "But 3 days is long to leave you without anyone knowing. In case I fall off another roof." "In case anything," his voice roughened. "I'm not losing another—" He stopped abruptly. Another what woman partner Martha waited, but he didn't finish. Instead, he stood, collected his coat. "I'll check the livestock." She watched him go, recognizing the retreat for what it was. They'd grown closer. Yes, but some walls remained. Perhaps would always remain. Hunter left before dawn. The wagon loaded with 4 horses tied behind. Martha stood on the porch despite the cold, watching until he disappeared into the white distance. Moses whined beside her. "Just you and me now," she told the dog. "Let's hope for a quiet 3 days." The first day passed peacefully. Martha threw herself into tasks scrubbing floors, organizing the pantry, starting a new shirt for Hunter from fabric she'd bought with her saved wages. The house felt too quiet without his presence, but she'd lived with loneliness before. The second night brought trouble, though not the kind she'd expected. She woke to Moses growling, then barking frantically. Not his stranger alert bark, but something more urgent. Martha grabbed the rifle, crept to the window. The barn door stood open, banging in the wind. She knew she'd latched it securely. Pulling on Hunter's oversized coat, it smelled like leather and wood smoke, she ventured out. Moses raced ahead, still barking. Inside the barn, she found chaos. The horses milled nervously in their stalls, and the feed bins had been overturned, grain scattered everywhere. Then she saw the tracks, bare, a big one, from the size of the prints. "Moses, quiet!" she hissed. The dog obeyed, but stayed bristled and alert. The bear had ransacked the grain and left, probably recently from the freshness of the tracks. Martha's hands shook as she calmed the horses, cleaned up what she could, reinforced the door with a board barred across it. Sleep was impossible after that. She sat by the fire with the rifle across her lap, jumping at every sound. Dawn came slowly. Martha ventured out to find more tracks circling the house. The chicken coop. The bear was hungry, probably desperate with winter setting in hard. It would be back. She spent the day reinforcing every entrance, moving what food she could into the root cellar, keeping Moses close. As darkness fell, her nerves stretched taut. Hunter wouldn't return until tomorrow at earliest. She was alone with a hungry bear and 6 bullets. The bear came just after midnight. Moses erupted in warning. Through the window, Martha saw a massive shadow investigating the barn door. Her reinforcements held, but the bear wasn't discouraged. It turned toward the house. "No, no, no," she whispered, checking the rifle for the 100th time. The bear circled, testing doors, sniffing at windows. Martha followed its progress. Moses pressed against her legs. At the kitchen window, it rose on hind legs, pressing against the glass. Martha found herself face to face with it, only thin glass between them. Time froze. The bear's eyes were intelligent, desperate. It pressed harder. The window groaned. Martha raised the rifle. The bear dropped down, moved to the next window, testing, searching. Then it found what it wanted: the root cellar door, older, weaker than the others. The sound of splintering wood galvanized her. That was their winter food supply. Without it, they'd starve or have to abandon the ranch. Neither option was acceptable. "Moses, stay," she commanded. Then did the foolish thing, the necessary thing. She went out to face the bear. It was half in the cellar, rear quarters still visible. Martha fired into the air. The bear backed out, turned toward her, lips pulled back in threat. "Get out of here!" She fired again, closer this time. "Go on, git." The bear charged. Martha held her ground, fired straight at it. The bullet struck its shoulder, spinning it sideways. It roared a sound that turned her bones to water, but momentum was broken. She fired again. The bear stumbled, turned, and fled into the darkness. Her legs gave out. She sat hard in the snow, rifle clutched in nerveless fingers. Moses broke command, raced to her side, licking her face frantically. "I'm okay," she told him, though she wasn't sure it was true. "I'm okay." Somehow she made it inside, barred every door, built up the fire. She sat wrapped in blankets, shaking not from cold but reaction. The rifle never left her reach. Hunter returned at noon the next day. Martha heard the wagon, saw Moses race out in greeting, but couldn't seem to move. She watched through the window as Hunter took in the scene: the damaged cellar door, the blood in the snow, the tracks everywhere. He burst through the door, wild-eyed. "Martha!" "I'm fine," she said from her chair. "Bear, it's gone now." He crossed to her in 3 strides, dropped to his knees beside the chair. "Are you hurt? Did it?" "I'm fine," she repeated. "Shot it, scared it off, saved most of the food." His hands framed her face, checking for injury, for truth. "You went outside to face a bear." "It was eating our winter supplies." "To hell with supplies?" The vehemence startled them both. I could have come back to find..." "But you didn't. I'm fine." "You're shaking." "Yes, been doing that since last night." Without hesitation, he pulled her against him, wrapped his arms around her. She should protest, should maintain their careful distance. Instead, she buried her face in his shoulder and let herself shake. "Brave, foolish woman," he murmured into her hair. "What were you thinking?" "I was thinking we need that food. I was thinking this is my home too." Her voice came muffled against his coat. "I was thinking you'd have done the same." "That's different." She pulled back to glare at him. "Why? Because you're a man?" "Because I'm not." He stopped, jaw working. "Because losing you would..." Again, he couldn't finish, but his eyes said what his words couldn't, and Martha felt something inside her chest crack open. All their careful boundaries, their practical arrangement, their insistence that neither wanted more, it crumbled like old mortar. "James," she whispered. He pulled her close again, and this time she felt him tremble too. "No more bears, no more facing danger alone. Promise me." "Can't promise that, not out here." "Then promise you'll be careful. Promise you'll..." His voice broke slightly. "Promise you'll stay." She understood what he was really asking. Not just through winter, not just as hired help. Stay here, stay with him, stay in this life they were building day by careful day. "I'm not going anywhere," she said softly. "This is home." They held each other as the afternoon sun slanted through windows, as Moses settled contentedly at their feet, as the Christmas cactus bloomed its first tentative flower. Outside, snow began to fall again. Gentle this time. Inside, 2 people who'd insisted they wanted only practical arrangements faced the impractical truth of what they'd found. That evening, Hunter cooked while Martha told him about the bear in full detail. He went pale at several points but didn't interrupt. When she finished, he set a plate before her with hands that still weren't quite steady. "You saved our winter," he said. "I saved my home." She met his eyes. "Worth fighting for." He reached across the table, covered her hand with his. "Yes, it is." They ate in companionable silence, hands linked between the plates. No grand declarations, no passionate promises. Just this 2 people choosing each other, choosing to stay, choosing to face whatever came next together. When Hunter rose to clear dishes, he paused, bent to press a kiss to her forehead. Quick, careful, but unmistakably tender. "Thank you for fighting, for staying, for—" He gestured helplessly at the warm kitchen, the blooming plant, the life they'd built. All of it. Martha caught his hand. "Partners. Partners." But his eyes said more. Said everything. That night, she heard him checking locks 3 times, stomping around the perimeter of the house, making sure she was safe. She smiled in the darkness. Let him fuss. After months of careful distance, it felt good to be worried over, cared for, valued as more than hired help. From the kitchen came a soft exclamation. Martha rose to find Hunter staring at the Christmas cactus, where 3 more buds were opening. "Look at that," he said softly. "Haven't seen it bloom in 8 years." "Sometimes things just need time," Martha said, standing beside him. "And the right conditions." He looked at her, understanding flowing between them. "Yes, sometimes they do." They stood together watching the small miracle of flowering in winter, shoulders touching, hearts finally admitting what their careful words still couldn't say. Outside, snow fell steadily, blanketing the world in clean white. Inside, something new bloomed, fragile as cactus flowers, but determined to grow despite the season. Not love, they'd insisted for so long, but standing there in the kitchen where she'd faced down a bear for their shared winter, where he'd held her while she shook, where small flowers bloomed against all expectation standing there, that careful lie finally fell away. Not yet spoken, maybe never needing to be, but love all the same. Christmas passed quietly, marked only by Martha's special dinner and a small gift exchange. She'd finished the shirt for Hunter. He'd carved her a wooden spoon with a handle shaped like a flower. They were settling into their new closeness, still careful but no longer denying the warmth between them. When the past arrived on a cold January morning, Martha was feeding chickens when she saw the rider approaching a man in a black coat too fine for ranch country, sitting his horse like someone more accustomed to carriages. Her stomach dropped before she even recognized him. William Holt, Thomas's cousin, the banker who'd tried to claim debts that didn't exist, who'd driven her from Kansas with his threats and lies. She stood frozen as he dismounted at the gate, his pale eyes finding her immediately. Well, Mrs. Colette, or should I say Mrs. Hunter? The locals in town were quite chatty about James Hunter's new arrangement. Mr. Holt," she forced her voice steady. "You're far from Kansas." "Indeed. Business brings me west. Imagine my surprise to hear a familiar name." He approached slowly, predatory. "You left rather suddenly, without settling certain matters." There were no matters to settle. Thomas's debts died with him. But there's the question of collateral, items that went missing from his estate." His smile was sharp. "Family heirlooms, documents, things a grieving widow might have secured." "I took nothing but my clothes and my mother's Bible." "So you say. But who can verify that? Who would believe a woman who fled in the night, who now lives in questionable circumstances with a bachelor rancher?" The kitchen door opened. Hunter emerged, took in the scene with one glance, and positioned himself beside Martha. Not touching, but close enough that his presence was unmistakable. "Help you with something." His voice was mild, but Martha heard the steel beneath. Holt's eyes glittered. "Mr. Hunter, I presume William Holt, First Bank of Kansas. I've come on a matter of business regarding Mrs. Colette's late husband's estate." "That's so long way to travel for old business?" "Some matters require personal attention." Holt's gaze swept between them. "I understand she's in your employ." "She is." How fortunate for her, finding such accommodating work so quickly. The insinuation dripped like poison. "Though I wonder if you're aware of her history, the debts she left behind, the property that's still unaccounted for." I'm aware she buried a husband and worked honest to survive after. Hunter's tone remained even. That's history enough. How noble. But I'm afraid the law takes a different view. She owes... I owe nothing. Martha stepped forward. You know that, William. This has nothing to do with debts and everything to do with your wounded pride that I wouldn't... She stopped, jaw clenched. Wouldn't what? Hunter's voice had gone very quiet. Holt laughed. Oh, she didn't tell you after poor Thomas died? I offered to help his widow, offered her a position in my household, a respectable situation for a woman alone. She refused quite violently. You offered to make me your mistress. The words burst out, sharp with old anger. Said it was that or debtor's prison. Said no one would believe a widow over a banker. Hunter went still beside her, dangerously still. Such crude language. Holt tutted. I offered honest employment. If you chose to interpret... Get off my land. Hunter's words cut like a blade. Holt blinked, seemingly noticing for the first time that the quiet rancher had shifted, hand near his hip where a gun would rest if he were wearing one. Now, see here. You heard me. Hunter stepped forward. Off my land. Now. Don't come back. This isn't over. She has obligations. She has nothing. Hunter's voice dropped lower. No obligations, no debts, nothing to do with you, or Kansas, or whatever schemes you're running. That clear enough. Holt's face flushed ugly red. You can't just... I am. Another step forward. You've got 30 seconds to mount up. You're making a mistake, Hunter. Harboring a woman of questionable morals. Probably a thief. Hunter moved. Not violently. Just a single long stride that put him directly in Holt's space. The banker stumbled back. 20 seconds. Holt scrambled for his horse. Dignity forgotten. This isn't over, I'll bring the law. You do that. Hunter watched him mount. Be sure to mention how you tried to force a widow into your bed. See how that plays with the law. Holt's face went white, then red again. Without another word, he spurred his horse viciously and galloped away. Martha stood trembling in the sudden silence. Hunter remained facing the road, tension radiating from his shoulders. James, is he likely to come back? Still not looking at her. Maybe he's vindictive when crossed. Are there really debts? No. Thomas died owing nothing. The farm sold for enough to cover everything. Her voice cracked. But William has influence, has ways of making lies look like truth. That's why I ran, why I came here. I should have told you. Yes, he turned finally. You should have. The hurt in his eyes made her stomach clench. I'm sorry. I hoped it was over, that he wouldn't follow, that I could just start fresh without telling me the truth. What would you have done if I'd told you that first day that I was running from scandal, from a banker's lies and threats? She wrapped her arms around herself. Would you have hired me? His silence was answer enough. I needed this job, needed somewhere safe, and then... She gestured helplessly. Then it became more than a job, and I didn't know how to tell you without ruining everything. So you said nothing. I was going to... When... The word came sharp. When he showed up, when the law came knocking, when... Martha had no answer. They stood in the cold morning, the distance between them suddenly vast, despite the mere feet separating them. I'll pack my things, she said quietly. What? I'll leave. Today. You don't need this trouble. No. She looked up, surprised by the vehemence. You're not running again. Hunter's jaw set stubbornly. Not from him, not from this. We'll handle it. Even though I lied. You didn't lie. You just... He sighed, suddenly looking tired. You just didn't trust me with the truth. I wanted to, these past weeks, especially after... She thought of being held while she shook, of linked hands over dinner, of small flowers blooming. I just didn't know how. Well, now I know. He turned toward the barn. Chores won't do themselves. James, wait! She caught his sleeve. Are you? I don't know. He wouldn't meet her eyes. I need to think. Just do what needs doing. We'll figure the rest later. He pulled away gently but firmly. Martha watched him go, feeling something precious slipping through her fingers. She'd fought a bear for this home, but her own secrets might be what drove her from it. The day passed in miserable silence. Hunter spoke only when necessary, ate quickly, retreated to his room early. Martha lay awake remembering how different last night had been, the quiet warmth, the sense of belonging. Now the house felt cold again despite the fire. Near midnight, she heard his door open. Footsteps paused outside her room. Martha, barely a whisper. Yes. I'm sorry. For today, for shutting you out. She sat up in the dark. You had every right. No, I didn't. She heard him lean against her door. I know what it is to run from the past, to want to start clean without dragging old pain behind. I thought we were past secrets. Scared, not a question. I understand scared. Martha rose, went to the door, pressed her palm against it. Imagined she could feel his warmth through the wood. I'm sorry I didn't trust you. You deserved better. We both deserve better than we've gotten. A pause. That's why I won't let him drive you off. This is your home, our home. We'll face whatever comes. Even if he brings trouble. Especially then. She heard him shift. I told you once I wasn't looking for another wife. That was true. But somewhere between you fighting blizzards and facing down bears, somewhere in there, I started thinking maybe I was wrong. Martha's breath caught. James, I'm not saying, I don't know what I'm saying. Frustration colored his voice. Just that when I thought you might leave today, it felt like, another pause, like losing Beth all over again. And I won't, not without a fight. I don't want to leave. The words came fierce, desperate. This place, this life, it's everything I didn't know I was looking for. Then don't. Whatever Holt threatens, whatever lies he spins, we'll face it together. Together, she agreed, pressing harder against the door. They stayed like that, separated by wood but joined by promise, until finally Hunter spoke again. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we plan. Maybe ride to town, talk to the sheriff, get ahead of whatever story Holt might spread. All right. Martha. Yes. No more secrets, either of us. We face things straight on from now on. No more secrets, she promised. His footsteps retreated. Martha returned to bed but didn't sleep, mind turning over possibilities. Holt wouldn't give up easily. He'd twist truth, spread poison, make their life difficult in every way he could. But James, no, they would fight back. This was her home, their home, worth fighting for. He'd said about the winter supplies, worth fighting for. She'd agreed. And now, with the past breathing down their necks and the future uncertain, those words felt more true than ever. Whatever came next, they'd face it as they'd faced everything else together. Stubborn as Wyoming winter, strong as the house that sheltered them. Holt thought he'd found a vulnerable woman alone, easy to intimidate. Instead, he'd found Martha Hunter, for that's who she was becoming, day by day, choice by choice. A woman with a partner, a home, and the kind of determination that had tamed the frontier. Let him come. Let him try. She had more than a shotgun now. She had someone worth fighting beside. And that, Martha thought as dawn crept toward the horizon, might just be enough. The sheriff in Dry Hollow was less helpful than they'd hoped. Tom Brennan, a man who seemed more interested in keeping peace than pursuing justice, listened to their story with obvious reluctance. William Holt's already been by, he said, not meeting their eyes. Says you absconded with property belonging to your late husband's estate. Mrs. Colette. Says he's got papers. What papers? Hunter's voice was dangerously level. Promissory notes, signed by Thomas Colette. Claims she took family silver, jewelry, bonds. Lies. Martha's hands clenched in her lap. Thomas owned nothing but debts when he died. Ask anyone in Topeka. That's a long way from here, ma'am, and Mr. Holt seems like a respectable gentleman, banker and all. Being a banker doesn't make him honest, Hunter said. Brennan shifted uncomfortably. Look, I'm not saying anyone's lying, just that it's his word against hers, and he's talking about bringing lawyers from Cheyenne, making it official. Then we'll get our own lawyer. With what money? The sheriff's look was pitying. No offense, Hunter, but everyone knows your ranch barely breaks even. You can't match a banker's resources. They left the office in tense silence. Main Street seemed hostile now. Curious faces in every window. Martha felt their judgment like physical weight. We'll figure something out, Hunter said as they climbed into the wagon. But Martha heard the doubt beneath his determination. Ranch money was tight, she'd seen the ledgers. Legal battles could drag on for months, years even. They couldn't afford it. The ride home was quiet, both lost in worry. As they neared the ranch, Hunter suddenly pulled up short. What is it? He pointed. Fresh wagon tracks led toward their property. Multiple horses. We have visitors. They found 3 men waiting on the porch. Holt and 2 others in city clothes. Legal men from their bearing. Moses stood stiff-legged, growling low. Ah, the fugitive returns. Holt smiled. Gentlemen, this is the woman I told you about, and her protector. The older of the 2 strangers stepped forward. Marcus Weatherby, attorney at law. This is my associate, Mr. Crane. We're here to resolve this matter peacefully. Nothing to resolve, Hunter said. You're trespassing. Actually, Weatherby produced a document. We have a warrant to search the premises for stolen property. Sheriff Brennan was kind enough to sign it. Martha felt the ground shift beneath her feet. You can't. We can and will. Holt's satisfaction was obvious. Unless you'd prefer to settle this quietly. What do you want? Hunter's question was flat. What's mine? What she took? The bonds, the silver, the things that never existed. Martha interrupted. Then you won't mind us looking. Holt nodded to his men. Proceed. Wait. Hunter's words stopped them. What kind of settlement? Holt pretended to consider. Well, given the circumstances, the damage to her reputation, the questions this raises, I might be willing to forget the whole matter. For appropriate compensation. How much? $500. Martha gasped. It might as well be $5,000. We don't have. Then perhaps alternative arrangements. Holt's eyes traveled over her insultingly. I'm still willing to offer employment in Kansas, of course, away from negative influences. The implication was clear. Hunter stepped between them, body taut with controlled rage. Get off my land, now, all of you. Or what you'll shoot us in front of witnesses. Holt laughed. That would certainly solve my problems. The violent rancher, the scheming woman. James, don't. Martha caught his arm, felt the tremor of restraint. It's what he wants. Weatherby cleared his throat. Perhaps we could discuss this more calmly. Mr. Hunter, you seem a reasonable man. Surely you can see the position Mrs. Colette has put you in harboring a suspected thief. She's no thief. Your loyalty is admirable, but misplaced. The lawyer's voice was sympathetic, practiced. Consider your reputation. Your ranch. Is one woman worth losing everything? Yes. The simple word hung in the air. Martha's throat tightened. Then you're a fool. Holt spat. Search the place. No. Hunter's voice carried a new quality. "You want to search? Come back with the sheriff. Otherwise, you're trespassing, and I'm within my rights to defend my property." "You wouldn't dare." Hunter smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "Try me." The lawyers exchanged glances. Weatherby folded the warrant carefully. "Very well. We'll return with proper authority, but this delay will only make things worse." They left in a cloud of dust and threats. Martha sank onto the porch steps, head in her hands. $500. Where would we even— "We're not paying him anything." Hunter sat beside her. "He's a vulture, feeding on lies. But if he has lawyers, official papers, people believe official papers. James, truth doesn't matter if the lie looks more real. Then we make the truth louder." She looked at him helplessly. "How?" "I don't know yet, but I'm not losing you to that bastard's schemes." He took her hand, rough fingers gentle. "We'll find a way." That evening, as Martha prepared a subdued supper, Hunter disappeared into his room. She heard him rummaging, drawers opening and closing. He emerged carrying a small wooden box. "What's that?" He set it on the table, opened it slowly. Inside lay a gold pocket watch, a woman's ring with a small ruby, and several other pieces of obvious value. "Beth's things," he said quietly. Her father's watch, her mother's ring, some other family pieces. He touched the ring gently. "I couldn't bear to sell them after, but now—" "No." Martha pushed the box back toward him. "Absolutely not. It's probably enough to cover what he's demanding." "I won't let you sell her memory for my mistakes." "Not mistakes. His lies." Hunter's jaw set. "And it's not selling her memory. Beth would understand. She'd want you to keep what's left of her, not sacrifice it for someone you've known a few months." "You're not just someone." The words came fierce. "And Beth would have liked you, would have wanted me to protect you." Martha's eyes burned. "There has to be another way." "Maybe, but if there isn't—" "There is. There has to be." She closed the box firmly. "We're not even married. James, you can't—" The words hung between them, heavier than intended. "Not married, just an arrangement, just business," despite everything that had grown between them. Hunter studied her for a long moment. "Is that what's stopping you, a piece of paper?" "That's not what I meant." "Because if that's all—" He stood abruptly, chair scraping. "Martha, look at me." She did, seeing determination mixed with something else in his eyes. Fear, hope. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying—" He stopped, ran a hand through his hair. "Hell, I don't know what I'm saying. Just that if being married would help, would make you feel like you had real claim here, real protection." "You're suggesting we marry to spite William Holt?" "No, yes, maybe." He laughed shakily. "I'm doing this all wrong. Beth always said I was terrible with words." "James, I'm not asking you to. I mean, it wouldn't have to be." He stopped again, clearly frustrated. "We could keep the same arrangement, separate rooms, just make it legal. Make you legally my wife, protected by law from—" "A business arrangement." "If that's what you want." "What do you want?" The question hung between them. Hunter turned to the window, shoulders rigid. "I want you safe. I want Holt gone. I want—" His voice dropped. "I want things I have no right to want." "What things?" "You know what things." He faced her again. "But I won't push, won't demand. If marriage keeps you safe but changes nothing else, I'll take it. If it means you'll stay—" "Yes." He blinked. "Yes." "Yes, I'll marry you, to stay safe, to stay here, to stay—" She swallowed hard. "To stay with you." "Martha." "But not with her ring." She touched the box. "Not with her things sold for my protection. If we do this, we do it right. Our choice, our reasons." "Our reasons." he repeated softly. Which are? She stood, crossed to him, took his hands. They were shaking slightly. Protection, yes. Partnership, yes. But also courage, Martha. Also because I can't imagine being anywhere else, with anyone else. Even though I'm difficult, set in my ways, even though I'll probably never be good with words or romantic gestures, even though, she squeezed his hands. You're good with other things, important things, steady things. Steady, he almost smiled. That's what you want, steady. After years of chaos, yes. She stepped closer. Is that enough? Am I enough? Not Beth, not your first love, just... He kissed her, quick, clumsy, desperate. You're not second to anyone. Different from Beth, yes, but not less, never less. They stood forehead to forehead, breathing shakily. When? Martha asked. Tomorrow, before Holt can make more trouble. I'll ride to Fort Laramie tonight, fetch the chaplain. Tonight in the dark? I've ridden in worse, and I want this done before... He paused. Before either of us can think too hard about it. She understood. The moment was fragile, built on fear and need and growing feeling. Too much examination might shatter it. All right, tomorrow then. He kissed her again, gentler this time. I'll be back by noon. Be ready. Ready for what I don't have a dress, don't have... Just be here. Be you. That's all I need. He left within the hour, Moses whining at being left behind. Martha stood on the porch watching until darkness swallowed him, then went inside to face the quiet house. Tomorrow she'd be married again. Not for love. They'd tell themselves. For protection. For partnership. For staying. But as she touched her lips where he'd kissed her, as she remembered his fierce yes when asked if one woman was worth everything, Martha admitted the truth. For love, unspoken, unpolished, uncertain, but love all the same. She looked at the Christmas cactus, blooming impossibly in winter. Sometimes the most unlikely things grew in the harshest conditions. Sometimes what started as necessity became necessity of a different kind. Tomorrow, she thought. Tomorrow everything changes. But really, hadn't it already? In the kitchen, she began mixing bread for morning. Her hands were steady now, certain whatever came after Holt's threats, town gossip, the challenge of two damaged people building something new, she'd face it as Martha Hunter. The name felt right, felt like coming home. She smiled, kneading tomorrow's bread in the lamplight, and let herself imagine a future written in their own words, witnessed by a transplanted Christmas cactus and a scarred dog named Moses. It wasn't the stuff of fairy tales. It was better. It was real. And it was theirs. Martha woke before dawn on her wedding day to find snow falling softly outside. She dressed in her best dress, the dark blue wool that was still practical but less worn than the others. Her hands trembled as she pinned up her hair, remembering another wedding day years ago, full of hope and promises that turned to ash. This time would be different. Had to be different. She was adding wood to the stove when she heard horses approaching. Her heart leaped, then sank as she recognized not one rider but several. Through the window, she saw Hunter returning with the chaplain as promised, but also Sarah Miller and her husband John. Witnesses, Hunter explained as he helped her neighbor down from the wagon. Chaplain Williams insisted on proper documentation. Sarah embraced Martha warmly. When James told us this morning, I insisted on coming. A woman needs another woman on her wedding day. But the weather... Nonsense. A little snow never hurt anyone. Sarah's eyes were kind. Besides, someone needs to stand with you against the gossips. Might as well start now. The chaplain, a young man with earnest eyes, shook Martha's hand. I understand there's some urgency to this union. Yes, Hunter answered. There are circumstances. I see. Williams glanced between them. And you both enter this marriage freely. No coercion. Freely. Martha said firmly. Very well. Shall we proceed? It was nothing like her first wedding. No church, no flowers, no family-filling pews. Just the five of them in the kitchen. Moses watching from his corner. Snow falling past windows. The chaplain read the simple ceremony from his worn book, while Sarah held Martha's hand and John stood solid beside Hunter. Do you, James Andrew Hunter, take this woman? Tss. Martha watched James's face as he answered. Seeing the weight, he gave each word. This wasn't casual for him, despite their practical reasons. When her turn came, her voice emerged stronger than expected. I do. The ring. Hunter looked stricken. In the rush, they'd forgotten. Here. Sarah pressed something into his hand. A simple silver band. My mother's. I brought it just in case. Hunter took Martha's hand, slipped the borrowed ring onto her finger. With this ring, I thee wed. The words seemed to echo in the quiet kitchen. Martha stared at the silver band, at their joined hands. At this moment that was supposed to be purely practical, but felt like so much more. By the authority vested in me, I pronounce you man and wife. William smiled. You may kiss your bride. They'd kissed before twice now, but this was different. In front of witnesses, sealing something legal and binding. Hunter cupped her face gently, bent to press his lips to hers, soft, brief. But Martha felt it like a promise. Congratulations, Sarah whispered, tears in her eyes. They signed the certificate there at the kitchen table. Martha's hand shook slightly as she wrote Martha Hunter for the first time. Real, legal, protected. I'll file this immediately. Williams assured them, no one can question your union now. After the witnesses left, Sarah extracting a promise that Martha would visit soon, the newlyweds stood awkwardly in their kitchen. Married? But what did that change? I should check the cattle, Hunter said. I should start dinner. They separated to their familiar tasks. But everything felt different. The ring caught on things. Unfamiliar on her hand. Hunter came in for coffee more often than usual. They bumped into each other reaching for supplies, apologizing too quickly. By evening, the strain showed. They ate in near silence, hyper-aware of each other. Finally, Hunter pushed back from the table. This is ridiculous. We're acting like strangers. Aren't we in a way? Martha twisted the ring. We just changed everything. Did we? You're still you. I'm still me. The chores are the same. The ranch is the same. But we're married, yes. He leaned forward. Martha, I meant what I said. Nothing has to change that you don't want changed. Your room is still yours. Our arrangement stands. And if I want things to change. The question hung between them. Hunter went very still. Do you? Instead of answering, Martha stood, began clearing dishes. Sarah left us a cake, wedding gift. Would you like some? Martha. Please, James, I need to think. He nodded slowly. Of course. Take all the time you need. They ate cake in careful silence. It was good Sarah's famous honey cake, but might have been sawdust for all Martha tasted it. Her mind churned with questions, fears, hopes she couldn't name. When Hunter rose to go to his room, Martha caught his sleeve. Wait. He waited. This morning, when you were gone, I kept thinking about my first wedding, how certain I was, how wrong I turned out to be. She met his eyes. I'm scared of being wrong again. You're not the only one scared. He covered her hand with his, but maybe that's good. Means we'll be careful with each other. Is that enough being careful? It's a start. He squeezed gently. Martha, we don't have to figure everything out tonight. We've got time now. Legal protection from Holt. A solid claim to this life we're building. The rest can come as it will. She nodded, throat tight. Thank you for today, for all of it. Thank you for saying yes. He lifted her hand, kissed it just above the ring. Sleep well, Mrs. Hunter. The name sent warmth through her. You too, Mr. Hunter. But neither slept well. Martha lay listening to the familiar sounds of the house, now filtered through new awareness. Her husband was down the hall. Her husband. Strange word for what they were to each other, more than employer and worker. Less than lovers. Something undefined but growing. Near midnight, she heard his door open. Footsteps in the hall. Hesitant. They paused outside her room. Martha, you awake? Yes. Can't sleep either. No. Silence. Then, this is harder than I thought. Being married, but not being. She rose, opened her door. He stood in the hallway, looking as lost as she felt. Do you regret it? No, never. The fierceness of his response surprised them both. Just trying to figure out how to do this right. How to give you what you need without pushing for more than you're ready to give. What if I don't know what I'm ready to give? Then we wait until you do. Simple as that. I'm a patient man. Martha had to be out here. I can wait. And if you get tired of waiting... He stepped closer, close enough that she could see his face in the dim light. Then I'll wait some more. You're worth waiting for. The words broke something in her. She swayed toward him, and he caught her, pulled her against his chest. Not passionate, just holding, safe, warm, real. I'm glad we did this, she whispered into his shirt. Even if it's complicated. Especially because it's complicated. Means it matters. They stood there in the hallway of their house. Married, but not quite together, but still finding their way. Outside. Snow continued to fall. Inside. Two people who'd thought they were done with love discovered that maybe, possibly, they were just beginning. We should sleep, Hunter said eventually. Yes, but neither moved. Finally, Martha pulled back. Good night, James. Good night, Martha. She closed her door, leaned against it, listened to him return to his room. In the kitchen, the marriage certificate lay on the table. Proof of what they'd done. Protection. They'd called it partnership. Practical necessity. But as Martha climbed back into her still narrow bed in her still separate room, she thought it might become something more. Given time, given patience, given two people brave enough to try again despite the scars they carried. The next morning brought Holt. As expected, he arrived with Sheriff Brennan and the lawyers, confident in his power. Martha met them at the door wearing her ring visible, Hunter solid beside her. Gentlemen, she said calmly, how can I help you? Holt's eyes went straight to the ring. His face darkened. What's this? Oh, didn't you hear? Hunter's voice carried satisfaction. You're addressing Mrs. Hunter now. My wife. That's impossible. Yesterday we weren't married. Today we are. Hunter produced the certificate. All legal and proper, which means any business regarding my wife goes through me. Brennan examined the paper, nodded reluctantly. Appears to be in order. This changes nothing, Holt sputtered. She owes nothing. Hunter stepped forward. And you'll cease this harassment immediately, or we'll be filing complaints of our own. Slander, defamation, attempting to coerce a widow. His smile was sharp. My wife has been keeping careful notes of your threats. Makes for interesting reading. It was a bluff. Martha had kept no such notes, but Holt didn't know that. He looked between them, calculating, finding his position weaker than expected. You can't just... Actually, we can... Sheriff Brennan cleared his throat. Mr. Holt, without real proof of debt bills of sale, receipts, something more than your word, I can't enforce anything. And a man's wife can't be compelled to testify against him or surrender property without his consent. But it's done, Williams said quietly. Accept it and move on. Holt's face went through several ugly transformations. Finally, He straightened his coat. "This isn't over." "Yes," Hunter said firmly. "It is." They watched the men leave, Holt's shoulders rigid with defeat. When the dust settled, Martha sagged against Hunter. It worked. Of course it worked. But his relief was evident too. "Though I notice you didn't mention those careful notes you've been keeping." "Must have slipped my mind." She smiled up at him. "Thank you." "For what?" "For making me your wife, for protecting me, for—" She gestured helplessly. "All of it." "Martha." He turned her to face him fully. "I need you to understand something. Yes, I married you for protection, but also because I wanted to. Because the thought of you leaving, of facing Holt or anyone else alone, I couldn't bear it. This ring isn't just defense against him. It's my promise. To you. However long you need to believe that." She touched his face, feeling stubble and warmth and home. "What if I'm starting to believe it already?" "Then we're making progress." He caught her hand, kissed her palm. "Come on, Mrs. Hunter. Chores to do, ranch to run, life to build. Together." Together. They went inside, leaving footprints in the new snow. 2 sets, side by side, leading to the same door, the same home, the same future. Uncertain but theirs. Behind them, the wind erased their tracks, but what they'd built, what they were building, remained. February brought false spring, a week of warm days that melted snow and coaxed early buds from trees. Martha knew better than to trust it, but she couldn't help working in the garden plot, preparing soil for eventual planting. The wedding ring still felt foreign on her finger, catching sunlight as she worked. They'd settled into new rhythms since the marriage. Still separate rooms, still careful distances, but warmer somehow. Hunter lingered over breakfast now, helped with dishes without being asked, found reasons to work closer to the house, small changes that felt momentous. This particular morning, he'd gone to check the far pastures, leaving Martha to her garden work. She was knee-deep in turned earth when she heard horses approaching, multiple riders moving fast. Her blood chilled. Holt again. But when the riders crested the hill, she recognized John Miller's distinctive gray mare, Sarah's husband, riding hard with 2 other men she didn't know. Mrs. Hunter. John's face was grim as he dismounted. "Is James here?" "He's in the north pasture. What's wrong?" "Fire. Bassett Ranch is burning. Started in the barn. Spread to the house." He was already remounting. "We need every hand. Can you send him when he returns?" "I'll come now." Martha was already pulling off her apron. "Let me saddle a horse." "Women are helping at the Miller's place, organizing food and shelter for the Bassetts. Sarah asked specially for you." Martha nodded, understanding. In crisis, the community pulled together, past judgments temporarily forgotten. "Tell her I'll be there within the hour." The men rode off in a cloud of dust. Martha quickly changed, packed what food she could spare, and saddled the gentle mare Hunter had designated as hers. As she prepared to leave, she heard Moses barking Hunter returning. His face went tight as she explained, "I'll head to the fire. You be careful riding alone. It's broad daylight, just to the Millers." "Martha." He caught her hands. "Holt's been too quiet. I don't trust it. Take the rifle." She saw real fear in his eyes, not of fire, but of losing her. "I'll be careful. You too. Fires are unpredictable." He pulled her close, kissed her hard. "Come home safe." "You too." They parted, riding in opposite directions. Martha's heart pounded, but not from the ride. That kiss, urgent, unguarded, felt like acknowledgement of what they'd been dancing around since the wedding. The Miller farm bustled with activity. Women had gathered in Sarah's kitchen, organizing food, bandages, temporary shelter. The Bassett family huddled in the parlor. Parents, 3 children, grandmother. Everything they owned was turning to ash miles away. "Martha," Sarah embraced her. Thank God. We need hands for cooking. The men will be hungry when they return. Martha threw herself into work, grateful for purpose. Around her, neighbor women who'd gossiped about her arrangement with Hunter now worked beside her without comment. Crisis stripped away petty concerns. "Heard congratulations are in order," said Mrs. Patterson, who'd been coolly polite at best before. "You and Mr. Hunter." "Thank you." Martha kept her voice neutral. "Good match," the older woman continued, kneading bread vigorously. "He needed someone strong, someone who understands this life, not like that first wife of his." Martha's hands stilled. "Beth." Sweet girl, but soft, city-bred, used to gentle living. Mrs. Patterson's tone wasn't unkind, just matter-of-fact. She tried, Lord knows, but the isolation broke her. The baby dying was just the final straw. "I thought fever took them both." "Fever took the baby, Beth. Well, she never recovered from the birth. True enough. But it was grief that really killed her. Wouldn't eat, wouldn't rise, just faded." She glanced at Martha. "James blamed himself, said he should never have brought her here, should have known she wasn't built for this life." Martha's throat tightened, understanding flooding through. No wonder he'd been so careful in his advertisement, so clear about wanting someone who could survive. He wasn't just seeking help, he was seeking someone who wouldn't break under the weight of this harsh life. "He's different now," Mrs. Patterson observed. "Since you came, looks less like he's carrying the world alone." Before Martha could respond, commotion arose outside. The men were returning, smoke-stained and exhausted. She rushed out with the other women, searching the crowd for one familiar figure. There, Hunter dismounting, soot-blackened but whole. Their eyes met across the yard, and the relief on his face matched her own. Without thinking, she ran to him. "You're safe." Her hands found his face, checking for injury. "Fine, tired, worried about you." He caught her hands. "Everything quiet here?" "Yes, the Bassetts lost everything, but no one was hurt." Could have been worse, but his expression was grim. "Fire was set deliberate, found oil cans in what's left of the barn." Ice ran down Martha's spine. "Who would—" "Don't know. Sheriff's investigating." Hunter lowered his voice. "But Martha, if someone's burning ranches—" He didn't finish. Didn't need to. If someone was targeting ranchers, they were all vulnerable. Their isolation, once protection, could become deadly. Sarah appeared with water and cloths. "Get cleaned up, both of you. There's food inside." The evening passed in organized chaos. Plans were made to house the Bassetts temporarily, rebuild their barn come spring. Donations were promised: lumber, livestock, labor. Martha watched the community mobilize with efficient compassion, seeing how survival here depended on these bonds. Finally, as full dark approached, couples began departing. Hunter found Martha in the kitchen, finishing dishes with Sarah. Ready to go home. Home. Their home. Yes. The ride back was quiet, both lost in thought. The moon had risen, turning the landscape silver and strange. Martha rode close to Hunter, alert for any sign of trouble. "What, Mrs. Patterson said?" She began, "About Beth." "You heard that." His voice was tight. "Was it true about the grief?" Long silence. Then, "Yes, she never wanted this life. Came because she loved me. But love wasn't enough. When the baby died—" He stopped, cleared his throat. "She gave up, and I couldn't save her. Couldn't make her want to stay." Martha reached across the space between horses, touched his arm. "It wasn't your fault. Wasn't it? I knew she was fragile, knew this life was too hard for her. But I wanted—" His laugh was bitter. "I wanted what I wanted, and it killed her." "James, no, you can't." That's why I was so specific in the advertisement. Why I insisted on someone strong, practical. I couldn't— He looked at her in the moonlight. I couldn't survive losing another person to this place, to my selfishness. Is that what you think, that wanting partnership is selfish? Isn't it asking someone to share this isolation, this hardship? You didn't ask. You offered. There's a difference. Martha pulled her horse to a stop, forcing him to do the same. Beth made her choice. I made mine. Neither of us were tricked or forced. We came with eyes open. Your eyes weren't fully open. You didn't know about Holt, about the fire danger, about... I knew enough. Knew it would be hard. Lonely, dangerous. Came anyway. She moved her horse closer. Because what I was leaving was worse. Because what you offered, honest work, fair treatment, respect, was more than I'd had in years. And because something about your letter felt like truth. Felt like someone who'd keep promises. She met his eyes. And you have every one. Hunter dismounted abruptly, reached up to help her down, but when her feet touched ground, he didn't let go. Martha, I need to tell you something. Her heart hammered. What? When I saw those men riding in today, when I thought something might have happened to you, his hands tightened on her waist. I realized I've been fooling myself. About what this is, about what you mean. James. I know we agreed. Separate rooms, business arrangement turned marriage of convenience. But Martha, he struggled for words. Watching you run to me today, feeling you check for injuries like I mattered. You do matter. As more than an employer, more than convenient protection. The question hung between them in the silver darkness. Martha lifted her hands to his face, feeling the day's stubble, the warmth beneath. You know you do. He made a sound relief, hunger, something beyond naming, and kissed her. Not the careful kisses of their wedding or parting. This was different, deeper. Acknowledgement of weeks of growing feeling, of shared dangers and quiet evenings, of two wounded people finding unexpected healing. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Hunter rested his forehead against hers. Come to my room tonight. The words emerged rough. Not for just to be close, just to sleep knowing you're safe beside me. Martha's breath caught. It was a bigger step than it sounded. Admission that their careful boundaries were already breached, that what lay between them demanded more than distance. Yes. Simple word. Enormous meaning. They rode the rest of the way in charged silence. At home, they tended horses with fumbling hands, aware of each other in new ways. Inside, Moses greeted them with unusual restraint, as if sensing the changed atmosphere. I'll wash up, Martha said. The smoke. Me too. Meet in my room when you're ready. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Later, wearing her warmest nightgown and robe, Martha knocked softly at his door. James. Come in. He'd built up the fire, turned down the quilts, changed into clean clothes. The room smelled of soap and wood smoke. He stood by the window, tension in every line. We don't have to, he began. I know. She moved to him, took his hands. I'm here because I want to be, because I'm tired of pretending this is just convenience. Because when I thought you might be hurt today, her voice cracked. I realized I can't lose you, won't. Martha, just her name, but weighted with everything. They stood there, two people who'd thought themselves past such feelings, discovering love could grow in the most unlikely ground. Outside, wind rattled windows. Inside, they were safe, together, admitting truths too long denied. The bed's big enough, Hunter said. We can just sleep, just be close. Just sleep, Martha agreed. But when they lay down, careful space between them. The distance felt wrong. Martha shifted closer. Hunter's arm came around her, natural as breathing. She rested her head on his shoulder, felt his heart beating fast as her own. Is this okay? His voice rumbled in his chest. More than okay. She pressed closer. James. Thank you for waiting, for patience, for... Everything felt too large for words. Just thank you. He pressed a kiss to her hair. Thank you for being worth waiting for being nothing like I expected and everything I didn't know I needed. They lay quiet, learning the comfort of shared warmth, shared space, shared breath. Not everything, not yet, but more than they'd had yesterday. More than either had dared hope when a widow answered an advertisement and a widower opened his door. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, Holt's schemes, fire threats, ranch work, and winter's last gasps. But tonight, they had this, each other. A marriage becoming real in ways that had nothing to do with protection and everything to do with the heart's stubborn insistence on hoping again. Sleep tight, Mrs. Hunter, James whispered. Echo of words not yet spoken but deeply felt. You too, Mr. Hunter, and in the circle of each other's arms, despite everything that threatened their hard-won peace, they did. March arrived with genuine spring wildflowers pushing through melting snow, cattle growing restless for fresh pasture, and Martha humming as she worked. The change in their marriage had transformed the house. Though they maintained some proprieties, the careful distance was gone. They shared morning coffee with hands touching, worked side by side in comfortable silence, and each night, Martha walked down the hall to their shared room, shared bed, shared life. You're spoiling those chickens, Hunter observed one morning, watching her scatter extra grain. They're laying better. Happiness improves productivity. She glanced at him sideways. Works for ranchers too, I've noticed. He laughed, still a rare sound, but coming easier now. That's so. You've smiled more this week than in all the months before. Wonder what's causing that. He caught her hand, pulled her close despite the chicken feed between them. Must be the weather. Must be. She agreed, lifting her face for a kiss that tasted of coffee and promise. They were interrupted by Moses barking his visitor alert. A lone rider approached, and Martha felt Hunter tense as they recognized Dr. Gabriel Carter from town. Doc, Hunter greeted him. Everything all right? Morning, James, Mrs. Hunter. The young doctor tipped his hat, but his expression was troubled. Afraid I bring concerning news. May I come in? Over coffee, Gabriel laid out the situation. There have been 3 more fires, all small ranchers, all suspicious circumstances. Anyone hurt? Martha asked. Not yet, but folks are scared. Some are talking about selling out, moving to town or further west. He paused. There's something else. William Holt's been buying up the damaged properties. Cheap, cash offers to desperate people. Hunter's jaw tightened. Son of a... James, Martha warned. Sorry, but if Holt's behind this... Can't prove it, Gabriel said. Sheriff Brennan says without evidence. He shrugged helplessly. Brennan's in Holt's pocket, Hunter said flatly. Maybe, but that doesn't change facts. People are scared. Holt's got money, and springs when folks make decisions about staying or going. Gabriel looked between them. I came to warn you. Your place is isolated, prosperous enough to be worth taking, but small enough to be vulnerable. If Holt wants to hurt you through Martha, he'll have to go through me first. That's what worries me. Gabriel stood. Be careful. Both of you. The community needs folks like you, people who stay, who build, who fight for what's right. After he left, Martha found Hunter loading rifles, checking ammunition. You think Holt would really... Burn us out, try to... His movements were sharp, controlled, but he won't find us easy targets. That night, they barely slept, starting at every sound. Hunter had moved Martha's things fully into their room, unwilling to have her even a hall's length away. She didn't protest. The comfort of his presence outweighed any lingering propriety. Near dawn, Moses erupted. Hunter was up instantly. Rifle in hand, Martha followed, grabbing the shotgun. Through the window. They saw orange glow near the barn. Fire! Hunter was already moving. Stay here. Like hell. Martha was right behind him. They found the hay pile ablaze, flames reaching toward the barn roof. Without words, they fell into rhythm, Hunter attacking the fire directly while Martha led panicked horses to safety. Moses barked continuously, racing between them as if he could help. Water! Hunter shouted. Martha ran for buckets, grateful they'd filled extra after Gabriel's warning. Together they fought, throwing water, beating flames with wet blankets, desperation lending strength. The fire was small, caught early. Within an hour, they'd won exhausted, soot-covered, but victorious. Look! Martha pointed to clear hoof prints leading away. Someone was here. Hunter knelt, studying the tracks. 2 riders, headed east toward town. Should we follow? No, they're long gone. But we know now. This was deliberate. They spent the rest of the night on guard, taking shifts while the other dozed fitfully. Dawn brought unexpected visitors, John and Sarah Miller, the Pattersons, 6 other neighboring families, all armed, all grim-faced. Saw your smoke, John explained. Figured you might need help. Fire's out, Hunter said. But thank you. Not just for the fire. Mrs. Patterson stepped forward. We're tired of being picked off one by one. Tired of that banker thinking he can drive honest folks from their homes. If he wants a fight, he'll get one. Sarah nodded. We're organizing patrols, watching each other's places. First sign of trouble, light a signal fire. Help will come. Martha felt her throat tighten. These people who'd once gossiped about her were now standing ready to defend their home. Thank you, all of you. We protect our own. Old Sam from the feed store said simply, Your good folks don't deserve Holt's harassment. Plans were made quickly. Patrol schedules, signal systems, agreements to help any family that suffered losses. It wasn't law Sheriff Brennan had proven useless, but it was community justice, frontier style. After everyone left, Martha found Hunter staring at the burned hay, shoulders tight. Hey, she said softly. We're okay. This time. But what about next time? What if you'd been in the barn? What if... She turned him to face her. What if doesn't matter? We faced it together. We won together. That's what matters. I can't lose you. The words came raw. Not to fire, not to Holt, not to anything. I can't. I won't survive it again. You won't have to. She gripped his hands. I'm not Beth. Remember, I'm too stubborn to die, too practical to give up, and too in love with you to go anywhere. The words hung between them first time either had said love aloud. Hunter's eyes widened. You. Love you? Yes. Have for weeks. Probably. Just took attempted arson to make me say it. He crushed her to him, buried his face in her hair. Martha, God, Martha, I love you too. So much it terrifies me. Then we're terrified together. But together is the important part. That evening, exhausted but unwilling to separate, they sat on the porch watching the sunset. The Christmas cactus, moved outside for spring, showed new growth. Moses lay between their chairs, occasionally grumbling at shadows. The burned hay had been cleared, the barn checked and reinforced. They'd survived another test. Gabriel's arriving soon, Martha said, spotting a rider in the distance. But it wasn't the doctor, it was Sheriff Brennan, looking uncomfortable. Sheriff, Hunter greeted coolly. Come to investigate the fire. Heard about it. Brennan fidgeted. Also came to, well, to let you know. William Holt left town this morning. Sudden-like. Something about urgent business back east. Martha gripped Hunter's hand. Left? Took the early stage. Said he'd concluded his business here. Brennan's look was significant. Seems someone sent word to Kansas about his activities. Banking board wants to ask him some questions about missing funds. Imagine that, Hunter said dryly. Yeah, imagine. Brennan cleared his throat. Anyway, thought you'd want to know. Don't expect he'll be back. After he left, Martha turned to Hunter. Did you? Wrote to a friend in Kansas, lawyer, asked him to look into Holt's banking practices. He smiled grimly. Turns out our William had sticky fingers. Bank's been losing money for years. So he's really gone? Really gone. Hunter pulled her close. We're safe. The word broke something in Martha. Months of tension, fear, uncertainty gone. She began to laugh, then cry, then both. Hunter held her through it, his own eyes suspiciously bright. It's over, she whispered. Actually over. No, he corrected gently. It's beginning. Our life. Our real life. Without looking over shoulders or waiting for trouble. Just us, the ranch, whatever we build together. Spring rushed in after that, bringing work and growth and deepening love. The community patrols continued, bonding neighbors in mutual protection. The Bassetts rebuilt with everyone's help. Martha's garden exploded with green. And in the kitchen window, Beth's Christmas cactus bloomed out of season, as if blessing the new life growing in the old house. One evening in May, as they prepared for bed, Hunter pulled something from his pocket, a simple wooden box. What's this? Open it. Inside lay a gold ring, worn smooth with age. Not Beth's ring, older, simpler. It was my mother's, Hunter explained. Been saving it for, Sarah's ring served for ceremony. But you deserve your own, if you want it. Martha's eyes filled. Of course I want it. He slipped it on her finger, replacing the borrowed band. With this ring, I thee wed, again, properly, as my wife, my partner, my love. James, she kissed him soft and sweet. I love you too, more than I thought possible again. They stood in their bedroom, their shared space in their shared home, two people who'd found each other through newspaper advertisements and necessity, through storms and fires and threatening men, who'd built something stronger than either could have managed alone. Later, as they lay entwined, Hunter whispered words that had become ritual. Sleep tight, Mrs. Hunter. But this time, Martha heard what he really meant. Sleep safe, sleep loved, sleep home. You too, Mr. Hunter, she whispered back. Forever. And in the house that had seen loss and loneliness, new love bloomed as surely as Christmas cactus in spring. Two wounded hearts, healed by patience and trust and the daily choice to try again. Together. Outside, coyotes called across the vast Wyoming night. Inside, two people who'd thought their best days were behind them discovered that sometimes the finest chapters come when you least expect them. When you're brave enough to answer an advertisement. When you're willing to open a door. When you choose love over fear. Again and again. Until it becomes as natural as breathing. The story of the hunters spread through the territory not as scandal but as hope. That widows and widowers could find new happiness. That practical arrangements could become profound love. That sometimes what starts as mere survival becomes a life worth fighting for. And in their bed, in their home, in their life built day by careful day, James and Martha Hunter held each other close and knew that every hard moment had been worth it for this love found in unlikely places, blooming against all odds, strong enough to weather any storm. Sleep tight, indeed. Thank you so much for listening to this story of love and resilience in the American frontier. I hope Martha and James's journey touched your heart as much as it touched mine while sharing it. Where are you listening from today? Please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with fellow listeners from around the world. If you enjoyed this tale of Wild West romance, please subscribe to Wild West Stories. 1850, give this video a like. And don't forget to hit that hype button to help more people discover these stories of courage, hope, and unexpected love in the Old West. Until next time, partners.